did the Monster Mash.
The Monster Mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
Hi everyone, welcome to the video lesson for Monday, October 12th and Tuesday, October 13th. On this lesson we learned all about Half-Life. So our warm-up question was asking about microwaving popcorn. So what do you hear when microwave is being cooked in the microwave? You hear popping sounds. And if you turn the microwave on for 2 minutes, does it pop at the same rate? Or does it change? And so our answer, and we talked amongst ourselves, was that you don't hear anything. Then you start hearing a few pops. Then you start hearing a lot of pops, and it pops really, really fast. And then slowly it starts to pop not as often until you hear just a few errant pops by themselves. Our homework that was assigned, we had homework, the Gizmo worksheet. We started it in class and finishing it on your own time. It's due on our next class this week. And then I introduced the Half-Life app assignment. It's taking a screenshot, and that is due next week at your first class. That one's an all-task assignment. So after our warm-up, we took notes on Half-Life. Then we started working in small groups on our Half-Life Gizmo. And then I introduced the Half-Life app assignment and how to hand that in. So to find your Unit 2 notes, you need to go to your My Drive. I put a link in our module that should take you straight to your Google Drive. There's also a link on the left-hand side of your Canvas navigation to help you find your Google Drive. That link will open up your Drive files inside of Canvas, so if you like doing that, awesome. If not, I also gave you a link. Hopefully you guys have made a folder by now for your chemistry items. If you haven't, you can always search for Chemistry Unit 2 notes and it should find it for you. We started on slide 8, which is about the band of stability. Now that you've done the packet, you've handed in your packet worksheet, and you watched the video, I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So nuclear decay takes place when an atom has an unstable ratio of neutrons and protons in its nucleus. Smaller elements are fine. They're perfectly stable with the 1-to-1 ratio. So hydrogen can actually have 0 neutrons and still be fine, but it can have 1 proton and 1 neutron, and it's good. Helium has 2 protons, 2 neutrons, and it's stable. Lithium has 3 and 3. So for our very small atoms, 1-to-1 ratio is perfectly fine and it will stay stable. But the larger atoms need more neutrons than protons. So once I get to something like uranium, which has 92 protons, I need more than 100. I need more than about 150 neutrons to keep that atom stable. So as I get bigger, I need more and more neutrons to cancel out that repulsive force between my protons. So now we have our graph. So if you graph your atoms by the numbers of neutrons versus protons, you get this graph. Everything in the red area is a stable isotope. Those are not radioactive. They won't go through decay. But everything in the blue band is unstable, or you could even call it radioactive. Those will fall apart and they will go through nuclear decay. Anything outside that blue band just doesn't exist. Kind of like trying to balance 2 basketballs on each other. It's not really going to work. One is going to roll off the other. So that's what's happening outside that blue band. Those just don't really hold together. You can try and put a basketball on top of another basketball, but as soon as you let go, it's going to roll off. So any element with a neutron to proton ratio that gets applied above or below is unstable. It is radioactive. So half-life is the time it takes for half of the atoms of a current sample to decay. Now be careful, they're decaying, they're not disappearing. A lot of times we think it's disappearing. It's just going through decay. It's going from one type of atom to another type of atom. So over here, I have these 8 red dots. So these are like 8 atoms. Let's say they're carbon 14. After one half-life takes place, so for carbon-14, that's about 5,000, 6,000 years, half of it's going to decay into nitrogen. This is one of our practice problems from a few slides above. So after one half-life takes place, I start with 8 atoms of carbon-14. Then after one half-life, now I'm down to 4 atoms of carbon-14 and 4 atoms of nitrogen. After another 5,000 years, another half-life has taken place. My amount of carbon cuts in half again. So I had 4, it's going to cut in half, and I'm going to be left with 2 atoms of carbon now. One more half-life, my 2 gets cut in half again into just 1 carbon. And the other 7 are now all nitrogens. So one half-life cuts what I have in half. So we filled out this table. At 0 half-lives, I have 100% of my sample, and my fraction is 1 over 1. 1 half-life, I have 50% remaining, and my fraction is 1 over 2. 2 half-lives, 25%, and 1/4. 3 half-lives, I'm left with 12.5% and 1/8. And 4 half-lives, I'm left with 6.25% and 1/6. So here on the same slide, we have a practice problem. LR257 has a half-life of 8 seconds. So what percent of a sample will remain 32 seconds after it's made? So the first thing I need to do in any sort of problem like this is find out how many half-lives have taken place. That's always our first step. So I have 32 seconds have passed, and I know that I have 8 seconds and a half-life. So I need to see how many half-lives fit into 32. So 32 seconds. I'm going to divide that by 8 seconds. But notice I like units. I really like units. I'm trying to figure out how many half-lives I have. So if I divide seconds by seconds, I don't have any units. So 8 seconds is the same as 1 half-life. So I have 32 times 1 half-life. So that gives me 32 half-lives. 32 half-lives divided by 8 gives me 4. Half-lives. So I almost have my answer. I have enough to look up my answer. So if I go through 4 half-lives, that means 6.25% is left. So my answer here, after 4 half-lives, 6.25% is left. Has not decayed yet into its next isotope. Now the next question says, how many half-lives have passed? Well, in order to answer question 1, we actually have already answered question 2. 32 divided by 8 gave us our 4 half-lives that passed. Then on the next slide, I've already typed in for you that table. It says remove this image when told, and once you remove it, you see that it's all filled out for you. So here's another type of question. A 64-gram sample of iodine 131 is tested after 40 days and is found to contain only 2 grams of iodine 131. What is the half-life of iodine 131? So the first thing we need to do is figure out how many half-lives have taken place. So what I like to do is I like to make a chart. So 0 half-lives, 1 half-life, 2, 3. Let's go all the way to 6 half-lives, just in case we need that much. And let's see how many grams we're going to have with each half-life. So at 0 half-lives, I start with 64 grams. So I have 64 grams to start with. Then one half-life gets passed. So 64 divided by 2 gives me 32 grams. Then I'm going to divide that number in half again and go to another half-life. So 32 divided by 2 gives me 16 grams. Still not 2 grams of iodine, so let's keep going. Another half-life passes. So cut 16 in half, and I get 8 grams. Still not down to 2. So let's do another half-life. So 8 divided by 2 gives me 4 grams. Still not 2 grams, so let's cut 4 in half. Gives me 2 grams, and oh, here we go. 5 half-lives have taken place. So now I know how many half-lives have taken place, and I know that it's been 40 days. I can find out how many days half-lives took place in those 40 days. So I have 40 days divided by 5 half-lives. Put that into my calculator, and I get 8 days per half-life. I have an 8-day long half-life. Every 8 days, one half-life passes. Now, in case you feel like you want a little bit more practice, you will notice I have an optional half-life extra problems assignment in our module. This is not assigned for credit. There will be no repercussions if you do not do this. But if you want more practice problems, I have provided you with them. And I provided you with the solution key as well. So you can open this up in a new tab, and I believe there are 6 problems that you can work on. I highly recommend that if you have a printer, print them out. If you don't have a printer to print these out with, then I'd say solve them on a piece of paper. And when you've worked through them, you can then check the answer key that I've embedded in the assignment. That's just another way to get a little bit more practice and some feedback. And if I have some time, maybe I'll even post a video walkthrough. In your notes, I have included another video that can walk you through some more example problems the same way that we solve these. Now, as a rule of thumb, I think it is a great practice to go to YouTube and search the things we're learning in class to find more ways of explaining what's going on. Half-life problems and half-life decay is something you need to be really careful about. There are different ways of teaching this and different ways of solving these problems. So if you find a video that looks like it seems interesting that you want to watch, make sure that it's solving it with a table like this. Because other teachers use equations. We are not using the equation this year, so you might get a little lost if you find one that's explaining it with the equations. You need to find one where it's explaining it with tables or graphics. After notes, we broke up into some small groups into breakout rooms, and we started working on the half-life gizmo. So in the assignment on Canvas and in the document itself, there's a link to explorelearning.com. Go to our class page and you'll see the half-life simulation is one of our options. And as a group, you guys just got a chance to work together and start answering those questions, start looking at what you noticed in the simulation. What is it trying to show you? What is this graph showing you? And finishing this was your homework assignment. It's due in our second class of the week. Now, our all task assignment for this week is the first time you've been assigned a Silver Apps assignment. Now, Silver Apps assignments are always handed in as screenshots to prove that you got the score that we said you need to get. So this week, you have to get a score of 10 in the Silver Apps website in order to receive your full credit for the all-task assignment. Now, there are links here and here, both take you to the app. If you do not know how to take a screenshot on your device, we have given you a link to the virtual learning survival kit. So if you right-click on that, that will make a copy of the document in your Google Docs. I've also linked the virtual learning survival kit in our resources page in the Bitmoji Classroom. It has instructions on a lot of useful things, actually, to help you survive through virtual school. And part of that is how to take screenshots on different types of devices. When you first click to the website, it's going to ask you what your name is. If it doesn't, for some reason, refresh the page because you need to put in your name, because it will report what your score is as you go along. Now, every question gets you a 1 point for a correct answer and a negative point for an incorrect answer. So here I've got my question, 9.5 is my answer. I choose it and my score has gone up to 1. But every time you get a wrong answer, you're going to lose points. So here's my question, 26 is not the correct answer. So my score went from 1 down to 0. And notice it didn't give me a new question. I have to state this question until I get the correct answer. So if I choose wrong again, negative 1 points. 13 seconds. Whew. I went from negative 1, regained that point, and I'm now back to 0. So here's my huge hint. If you start to get very negative scores, or if you get a negative score, if you refresh your page, that's a way to reset your grade back to 0. If you're at a negative 2, you're going to need to get 12 correct answers in a row to get a positive score of 10. So to save you some trouble and some pain and some grief, if you're in the negative numbers, refresh the page. Reset your score to 0, so there's less room that you have to make up. Now, once you get the score that you want, press the Get Score Report button. Miss B, you got a score of 0 on App 13. Then I need you to take a picture of that entire screen, that entire window. There's a lot here that tells me that the score that you're reporting is, in fact, your score. If you crop it badly and it's missing things that I need to see, I may tell you that you need to do it again in order to get your credit. So that's what we went over today in class. Please remember, I am always available during student support and activity periods, as well as all of Wednesday and my Zoom office hours. Okay, until I see you again, make good choices and stay safe, everyone.